said, the first thing that we have to do is do the tier list for the upcoming WCQ, the most important Master Duel event of the season probably, and the one where everybody has the highest chances to actually qualify for Worlds. And we have a pretty interesting format on our hands, because I still don't, I still don't think that that the format is solved. And we still have one pack to go, but my prediction is that the new pack will not contain anything of actual importance for the WCQ. We did see that I think that Mimigul was leaked yesterday, if I'm not wrong. And I don't think that Mimigul has any space on the tier list whatsoever. So I decided to divide decks into a few different categories, which is the first one being the best deck. The second one being what was I thinking about this one? Yeah, very good one. Very good. Third category will be one trick decks. Oops. One trick deck, which means that the deck will probably perform by a few people that play the deck all the time. Second to last category will be not good enough. And the last category will be dismantle category, complete woods, absolute trash, the branded category. When is WCQ happening? WCQ is happening on at the beginning of the June. So yeah, for each of these decks, we will take a look at deck lists that people play right now. We are going to go in order, and we have to start with Chimera. Chimera Finsmiths, to be completely precise. And I think that in sea of Finsmith decks and sea of just decks that do what Chimera does just better. This deck is not really good enough and will not really hold its spot, and I don't think it will perform at all. I'm expecting this deck to have zero success rate during the WCQ. Maybe I can see maybe one in top 100. But I don't think that Chimera is the deck that is good enough, and therefore we're going to put it here. We're also going to check how people are playing Chimera. I'm using Master Duel Meta because it's the easiest way to just check all the deck lists that we need. And we are going to check the most recent one, talk a little bit about the deck. For some Chimera enjoyers that might consider the deck. So yeah, what we can see here is just the standard Chimera, kinda standard Chimera list that plays a Zamina package here. I saw people not play it, but for sure you play a Dusted Golden Necrom because that is your free mid combo access into the Finsmith engine without having to commit for Moon. And yeah, okay, let me make the music a little bit lower. Sorry. Okay. So the main thing that I would have to say about Chimera and its position in the current meta is that the deck really does struggle with non-engine space. As you can see, there is 2 mech seats, so it's 2, 4, 7. That's 7 hand traps and 2 talents, which even if you didn't play talents, it would be 9 hand traps. It's just not good enough. Also, even going first, this deck is pretty easy to stop. It's kinda weak into draw, and because most of your starters will search the thing, and if you get drawled, you either have the hand to push through it or you don't. As I said, very little non-engine space. Sometimes even very few pushes, because if you don't have Chimera Fusion to dodge Imperm on Gazelle or dodge Imperm on Baphomet or stuff like that, you will basically not be able to play, and also not playing other hand traps, which you probably can. You can probably play one Veiler, one Imperm instead of Talents for this, but then you're once again weakening your board and stuff. Yeah, Chimera. I simply like we're gonna go back to the tier list, and I think Chimera is simply not good enough to do anything in this meta. And yeah, that's basically my take on it. Next thing that we will be talking about is Rescue Ace. Rescue Ace, it's Rescue Ace is weird because while it has very good plays into Maxi, so does Blue Eyes. Sometimes it lacks pushes, like it's very hand dependent. It also cannot run a lot of non-engine. I will, and I'm Nicky Boy. I'm sorry for this. I will place Rescue Ace in not good enough category. Probably better than Chimera though. It also might go into one trick deck, but I think like that's the category that better explains other decks and not Rescue Ace. I think Rescue Ace might not be good enough for the upcoming grind, especially if you have to play this deck for the entire 3 days. The hand quality is just pretty mediocre for the deck, I would say. Um, I like we're going to check the deck list. We're going to count the non-engine, but I think that Rescue Ace is pretty mid, like compared to other decks, better than Chimera, but pretty much like not that great, We're going to check the deck list. We're going to see what people are playing. Let's see, where is Rescue Ace? Okay, it cannot be this low. Okay, there is Rescue Ace. There is whole 3 deck lists. I would like to check Nicky's list, but I don't currently have it on me, so we're just going to check this Finsmith variant. You can also play Pure, which also allows you to play Dominus Impulse cards, I think. And as we can see here, there is 2, 5, 8, 8 hand traps and 3 super polys, which can also be which can also be other hand traps. If you cut Finsmith, you can maybe fit more, but you are also playing more than 40 cards here. Also, this list doesn't play Impulse. If you play Impulse, I guess you can count Impulse as additional, pseudo hand trap for the deck. Like, this deck does still struggle, even with Airlifter at 3, this deck still does struggle with consistency, I feel like. The amount of plays is very limited. You are very limited most of the times to your normal summon, unless you see some of your generic fire extenders or original Sinful Spoils engine. It is very normal summon dependent. You also have like emergency to try to dodge hand traps on Airlifter or Hydrant, but usually, even though this deck is very good when it does set everything up, I don't think it's worth the hassle. And it's one of the better decks in Maxi, but when you have decks like Blue Eyes in the format, I also don't think that that this deck really can perform. And I also don't think that disruptions are particularly great in versus the decks that have a lot of pushes. So I think the deck is even when you set 4, I think the deck is right now mainly carried by Apo if you can make it. Some hands cannot even make it. And I just don't think that all of that makes the deck worth playing for 3 days. There is another variant also, and that is the Azamina variant that can play Dom. I don't know. There is also Finsmith. Okay, this list is not good. But you can see the general idea. You can remove the Finsmith cards and play Dominus Impulses, which allows you to play more hand traps. But you're still. This one is even 60 cards to fit all the engines. So I guess you can just cut Finsmith from this, cut a few bricks here and there, and be able to play Dominus Impulse in this build. So yeah. Also, yeah. Any deck that relies on resolving Azamina cards is pretty bad. I will just talk about Azamina cards as I will just talk about Azamina cards as, you know, separate thing, you know, separate engine. I think that Azamina engine is pretty weak. It trades pretty badly into Ash. It trades pretty badly into Ghost Ogre. Um, you know, it's high risk, high reward for this type of decks that can bridge into original Sinful from this. But I just don't think that the engine does enough. It maybe did enough on release for a few weeks, but eventually, like even after people dropped Retaliating Seed that they started playing because of Azamina, the engine is just very minus. It is very bad going second. It requires you to play a brick, semi-brick, in Hollowed. Sometimes it's a hard. It depends. Like if you draw Hollowed on its own, it does nothing. So I will just say brick. For a payoff of Omni Negate, which I don't think is good enough. So yeah, Rescue Ace, not good enough. Next deck that we have, like, that we have to talk about is Kashtira. When I say Kashtira, I mean Kashtira Stun deck. And I think I need category between a one trick and not good enough. Um, let me see how do I add that. Uh, is it here? Okay, add a row below. Yeah. We need. I think we need a tier between one trick and not good enough, and that is going to be mid, and that is going to be where I would put Kashtira Stun. Um, Pretty inconsistent. Why don't Yu-Gi-Oh streamers use ad block? I do use ad block, but I can't use the site because it prevents using ad block. That's why we have ads here. I'm sorry, but I cannot do anything about this. I will put Kashtira Stun in mid because somehow, for some reason, I don't know by what divine intervention, Kashtira always see a huge amount of representation during some point of the WCQ. If this was purely meta discussion, I would put Kashtira Stun into a dismantle type of deck. But for the WCQ, this type of decks seem to always find its spot in like top 100, simply because cards like Macro, Cosmos, Dimensional Fisher, Solemn cards, and the Rice Heart in general do hurt, as like even like Shifter. Right now in this meta, Shifter is also a pretty decent deck. I'm not sure if, let's see if we can find some Kashtira list to talk about. Let me type it instead of searching it. Yeah, there is Kashtira. There is few deck lists. Okay, there is Kashtira Primate. I'm not going to check the Goo. So as you can see, this is the type of list you expect to see during the WCQ. Some board breakers, Super Poly, not particularly crazy. Also, this list not playing Chaos to counter Blue Eyes. So as you can see, you know, just bunch of Kashtira cards trying to maximize on like Kashtira starters and one card combos. But even if you can just slam Ogre down and set something like Macrocosmos, you know, few judgments, few strikes, maybe Super Poly, you can find yourself in a pretty controlling position with this deck. Not I This deck in theory should break a lot. This deck in theory should break quite a lot. And it does break quite a lot. But you don't necessarily always need to see your Kashtira monsters or stuff. Like, you sometimes just need to see one Macrocosmos to completely lock your opponent out of playing if they don't have a deck that's suited to beat Macrocosmos, or if their hand is not good enough. And then, like, you can just stall a game for few turns to make your Kashtira cards work. But overall, I think this deck is pretty bad. Like, I don't think that this deck will ever see wider usage in the current Master Duel format, or in any Master Duel format, as a matter of fact, as long as Kashtira starters and good Kashtira cards remained limited. You know, Braithsot, Unicorn, this and Shifter. Those are basically the best cards in this deck to get things started. Also, Unicorn as a card is pretty good to counter Fiendsmiths if you get hand trapped on it, if you get Ashed on it or something like that. You can just rip out Requiem or Moon, denying the deck's access to the Fiendsmith engine. So yeah, Kashtira, like as I said, if this was a like purely meta discussion for like ladder rated and shit, I would put this deck in dismantle category. But since this deck always finds its way into like always finds a representation during the Duelist Cups, where people are on tilt and will immediately scoop to this type of decks, and you know, people that are on tilt will more often than not resort to playing something like this. I think that this deck will find its, like, maybe find a spot in top 100. I don't think that this deck has what it takes to win the WCQ. Same goes for stun here. I will just put stun in the same category. Probably pure stun is probably better than Kashtira stun. Now that I see people playing even Dominus cards in stun, it is, you know, pretty interesting thing to see. Okay, now that I think about this, I think I can put Rescuers in this tier. I think I can put Rescuers in mid tier now that now that I already made the tier. I think I can move. I can move the thing. Okay, so talking about stun, like the same, you know, the same points stand for stun. That stand for Kashtira. Okay, this is the build that I was talking about. People playing a lot of Dominus cards, even though Dominus Impulse not really impactful in the current format. Like, you can always build stun to beat what you see the most. The biggest problem right now with stun in general is that Blue Eyes is pretty good versus any form of stun, and if you build something like Typhoon to try to counter Blue Eyes, or stuff like that, you will find yourself drawing Typhoon versus Snake Eyes, in which case that card might be pretty useless. So yeah, stun pretty medium for you know, any Duelist Cup. But as I said, all the points that I said for Kashtira also go for stun. This deck is the deck that people scoop to when on tilt. This is the deck that people play when on tilt. It is extremely high rolly. It is extremely coin toss dependent for the most part. You have some cards to break boards and like few hand traps, I guess, with Impulse and Purge. But can you expect like a Purge to stop Snake Eyes? Probably not. Purge might stop Blue Eyes, but that's also more often than not the case. So yeah, like this deck is just not good. It is not good, but it tends to have a high representation in Duelist Cups for the most part. Okay, moving to the next deck, I am going to talk about Fiendsmith Control. And I think that Fiendsmith Control either goes into a very good category, which I don't think is the case, or in the top of the mid category, which I think is the case. Now, when I say Fiendsmith Control, I'm talking about all of the Fiendsmith Control variants, either that be Primite, either that be Bestials, either that be Kashtiras. And the reason why I think that this deck is not good, not good. Why this deck is mid? It is decent against some part of the meta, but against Snake Eyes or any deck, as a matter of fact, that has a lot of pushes, like Mermail, like Branded, like Gimmick Puppet even, Snake Eyes specifically, this deck just does not do enough. Like, I feel like this deck just doesn't do enough versus decks that have very strong pushes. And I like, after watching this deck for a while, branded is free. It all depends. Like, if you see a big, like, if you see big amount of bestials, yes. And if you see, like, you know, cards to deal with it, yes. But I assure you that branded can find grind game space and grind, can find the grind game against this deck. And I think that branded has the advantage in the grind game overall, especially if you don't get, like, it is. I guess the best way I would describe this deck is a bit like a big if. Like, if X happens, the deck is good, but if X doesn't happen, the deck sucks. You know? Like, this deck either has very good matchups into meta or a very garbage matchups into meta. And I think that inconsistency is what makes this deck not very good. I mean, it's obviously not bad, but I cannot say that the deck is very good right now. I cannot, I would not put it, like, when I look at the other decks that I might put in the very good category, I don't think that Finsmith Control belongs there. Like, because of all these disadvantages that the deck has. I will take a look at the deck lists. Let me see, where is Finsmith Control? Is there even... Is something like that even here? I guess if you go Bestial? Is that it? Does this play Fins... No, this is literally just Bestial. Never mind. Let me see. Ah! Wait, I'm stupid. I'm blind. Yeah, I'm literally blind. Okay, so... These are the Finsmith decks that are currently here. And as you can see, a lot of them play Primate and Bestials. Some of them play only Bestial. Some of them, like, you know, more niche versions play Tempai and stuff. Let's take a look at this one. This one plays Beast discard for some reason, instead of, you know, I don't know what. I don't think that this deck needs second normal monster. Maybe it's good. Also no DPT. But yeah, this is basically what the deck looks like, and if you check this out, like, as I said, this deck, when you look at it, has very good matchup into something like Blue Eyes, in my opinion. And it can also run non-engine that beats Blue Eyes. It also plays a lot of Bestials, you know, Imperms, blah blah blah. But I think when it comes to pushing through actual boards, like, if you don't get to hand trap your opponent, or if your Bestials don't do enough against boards, especially against Snake Eyes, I just think it is. I just don't think that it is the best deck of the format by far. I don't think it's very good. I think this deck is, like, fluctuating between, like, okay-ish tier 2 or top of tier 3, depending on how the meta shapes, depend on the, like, choices that people make about their decks. So all in all, it's very matchup dependent, and that's why I'm putting Finsmith Control in like on top of mid category, which I think it will remain there. Okay, Master Duel Meta says it's tier 1. Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see. Okay, so now we are getting into the big deck category, I would say, and that is Blue Eyes. And I will put Blue Eyes as a tier 1 deck. Obviously, this will have multiple decks in it, and I think one of them is for sure Blue Eyes. A few reasons. I will give you the second I find the deck list so we can talk about the deck. Blue Eyes, let's take the first list, whatever. It's not really important if it's good or bad, I'm just using it as a reference. First of all, This deck is very good into max seed. This deck can set up to 5 disruptions when you get max seed. Yeah. This deck is very good into Maxi. It's very good into Mulch armies. It can struggle versus Finsmith control. And I guess that is the upside for Finsmith control. But I think like against any deck that doesn't run a lot of bestials and stuff like that, that this deck is very, very solid. It is a very good going first deck. It has a lot of non-engine to help you go second. One bad thing about Blue Eyes. Is that it really cannot push into boards. It has very weak or very few pushes, because like if you have a lot of Blue Eyes pushes in your hand, that means that you didn't open a lot of hand traps to stop your opponent, which means they got to full board, and even like you are most likely not breaking the full board. Because during that turn you also have to place True Light on the field, giving your opponent a free Raigeki if they can send it to the graveyard with anything. So I would say that that's a big, con of this deck. Also, there are some hands where you just don't see the Blue Eyes engine, even though you have a triple Sage, triple Maiden, triple Wishes. You just see Primate engine, and even though it's not bad. Passing on Drill Beam and Seals, or only Drill Beam, depends on your of the remaining of your hand, can sometimes not be good enough, and your opponent can break the board. However, if you get to set up your full Blue Eyes Primate board, even if you don't see Primate engine here, if you get to set up your Blue Eyes board, it's pretty hard to beat. And also, Drill Beam being very strong. Drill Beam being very strong. Like turn disruption, like you can reset it every turn. You get recursion of burial, and it just very, very strong. However, I don't think it's the best deck, but we're going to talk about that later. Simply because of how meta shaped. It's also meta dependent, as I said. Like depends on what your opponent is, but this deck is like way more solid than Finsmith control. Okay. Now next deck that we are gonna talk about will be White Forest, and I think that the White Forest is not good enough. Better than Chimera, but not good enough. The reason why I think that White Forest does not have place in this meta, it is very go first oriented deck, I would say. It is very, very go first oriented deck. It highly depends on accessing its extra deck. So if you stop it early, it can struggle. Like even after Impermon Sylvie, I'm going to check the deck list immediately, so we can talk about that more in detail. Let me just see where is White Forest. Okay, I guess I have to type it. White Forest Azamina. Okay, I think this is the build that you would see the most. And that is the Millennium build. This deck was one of the top contenders for the last Duelist Cup, and it disappointed. Like when the actual Duelist Cup happened, the deck disappointed. The deck just wasn't good enough. It is okay. I don't know what is this doing here. Ignore this card. The deck is very weak into Droll, and probably the best deck in the format does play Droll. It is okay into Maxi. It is okay into Maxi. Not. I don't think it's as good as Blue Eyes into Maxi, but it's okay into Maxi. Another weakness, it doesn't play a lot of non-engines. You can see there is 1, 3, 5, 8, 10 hand traps in 41 card, which is not the worst, but it's also not the best. I would refer to this deck as worse Snake Eyes. You know? If it goes first and combos, you are not winning, but so does Snake Eyes. However, Snake Eyes has an option to self-draw if gets maxed. This deck does not have that option. It explodes into set draw. Sometimes it is very, very hard to access Baron early, which also makes you kinda prone to nib. Azamina engine, like any deck that plays Azamina, is immediately on the back foot because this engine is bad. And yeah, I mean, you also play 2 talents, I guess, as non-engine. This could be another 2 hand traps if you so decide, so I guess you can play 12, so, which is like close to what you can play in Snake Eyes, but not quite there, which I think puts White Forest here. I think like it is either top of not very good category or not good enough category, or bottom of the mid category, which is where I will place these 2 decks, I guess, to kind of fix the order. You can play 15 hand traps if you go to 43 cards, yeah, but all of that hurts your consistency, and now that you don't have Beatrice, it is very, I just don't think that this, like, there is a lot of decks that do what White Forest does, but better. Which is why I don't think the deck is good enough. I don't think it's dismantled deck, but it is what it is. Okay. You forgot in dismantle? Ah, true. My bad. Okay. Next deck that we have to talk about is Tyr. And Tyr... I think Tyr is the first deck that I'm going to put in 1-trick category. Not everybody plays Tyr anymore. Rip dismantle? Huh? Yeah, I think that this deck is the first deck that I will put into 1-trick category. The reasoning behind that being... No, I don't think Tyr is dismantle deck. The reasoning behind that being that not everyone plays Tyr, and it is not a deck that you usually pick up for no reason. It is a deck that you pick up if you are specifically played. If you specifically play it for extended periods of time, if you like the deck, this is the reason why you pick Tyr, and this is why I put it in 1-trick category. Tyr players usually do not play other decks that often, and like the only reason that you would pick up Tyr is if you're 1-tricking it. Like, that's basically how I'm gonna put it. Let's see what Tyr decks are people playing here. Let's see, what is the most... I'm not sure why are people playing playing it like this. I don't know if this is a new trend. I've seen some of them with Sang engines and stuff, but I'm not really sure. I guess Millennium does make curious, so I guess another consistency tool. Would you consider trap tricks for WCQ? I wouldn't consider trap tricks to help me wipe my ass. So this is basically what Tyr deck kinda looks like. We took the Master 5 decklist. Do not take this with a grain of salt. Obviously, the main strengths of the deck, it plays okay-ish into Maxi, because you can simply make Kit Kalos, add a trap, and pass the turn if you get Maxied. However, I think the deck does struggle a lot into hand traps. This deck does not run Fiendsmith. I think you should for sure be on Fiendsmith in this type of decks. So actually, let me take this one that has Fiendsmith in it and doesn't have Millennium. You want Fiendsmith because Fiendsmith does make you help you, bro. Why is every decklist on Master Duel meta garbage? Why is every decklist that I see in Master Duel meta complete Okay, you don't play Fiendsmith Kyrie. As I said, the main strengths of this deck, decent into Maxi, very, you know, very good distribution of interruptions, because you can keep some of them in your hand, you can keep some of them on your field, some of them are your spell traps, some of them are in your graveyard. It's overall pretty hard to deal with for any deck for any deck that tries to break the board. However, if you don't open a hand that is good enough, you can struggle to play through hand traps. If you get access to your Fiendsmith engine as your only starter, you're kinda reliant on Pilgrim Reaper to hit. So yeah, the first deck that I'm gonna put into 1-3 category, it is what it is. Next deck that we have to talk about is unfortunately Tempage Clap. And there is two categories of Tempai. One of them is Hand Trap Tempai, and one of them is Sky Striker Tempai. Now, Sky Striker Tempai, I think, will struggle due to the best deck still playing Droll. However, I can see Tempai being in a very good category, on the bottom of a very good category. I don't think Tempai is mid. I think Tempai is better than all of decks that we see in the mid category here. However, I think it's not like it is very high rolly deck. It is a deck that right now struggles with consistency a lot, unless you are Nicky Boy and open Impulse, Fuvalos, Maxi, Gold Sark, Chandra. So yeah, I think that this deck will have its place during the WCQ. I think it's one trick. I don't think it's one trick. I think it is an alright deck, and I think if people will want to play faster games, people will still pick up Tempai. It's not crazy. It has very bad Blue Eyes matchup. However, it has very decent Snake Eyes matchup. All things considered, especially into especially the Sky Striker variant has a very decent matchup into Snake Eyes, unless they top deck Droll or draw Droll. Let's see how are people building Tempai right now. We see I don't know why Dominus Impulse is separate category on this side, but this is an example that you can play for the Tempai deck. I also highly recommend that you right now play Blaster and Gold Sark due to all the consistency hits the deck survived. So this might not be the best list. Let's take the other one. Let's take this one. This one looks a little bit better. Obviously, Droplet is still a very good card into Snake Eyes. Dominus Impulse is not the craziest card, but the fact that you can play Dominus Impulse in this deck is pretty good. You also have some amount of board breakers to deal with Blue Eyes. For example, a combination of Droplet plus this can easily deal with Blue Eyes. However, you will still have to push through Effect Veilers, Ashes, Purges, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that this hand trap variant is weaker than the Sky Striker variant right now. I think that Sky Striker variant is cool unless you get hit by Mermail. This is like more high rolly build, you know. It has less idea of what I mean. It has the clear idea of what the deck is trying to do. However, I do not think that the deck can OTK and draw starters and extenders consistently enough. It's very bad. It became very bad into hand traps right now, which was the main advantage of Tampa in previous formats. And even though the deck is fading away, I think it still has its place into meta. I think it's on the verge of being mid. So it will be one of the one of the decks to look out for during the WCQ, but I don't think that it has space at the top tables. So yeah, that much that I had to say about the Tempai, which brings me to the next deck, which will be Yubel, and Yubel is mid. Yubel is mid. Yubel is probably worse than Fiendsmith Control, probably at the same power level as Rescue Ace at this point. Like the deck received a lot of buffs in the previous. The deck received a lot of buffs in the previous periods with Lacrima being released and stuff like that, but the deck still struggles from the same things that it always struggled, and that is playing huge amount of bricks. That is Yubel Finsmith. Let's just open first deck list. Okay, these are all Master 5. Give me some topping deck list. Okay. Yeah, this is basically what Yubel looks like, and if I have to explain why the deck is not crazy, you don't play huge amount of non-engine. This is 41 cards. You play 3, 5, 8, 10, 11, 13 hand traps in 41 cards here, which I think it's alright. It's not the worst. But at the same time, this deck does not have any kind of push going second. Usually it is like very weak to its normal summon removed, and I would compare it to Sprite. If your normal summon gets removed, you are usually fucked. It also plays shit ton of bricks. You play Chaos Summoning Beast, you have to play OG Yubel, you have to play Terror Incarnate, you have to play the Trap, you have to play Sharvara, you have to play Luris, and stuff like that. You also play Grave Squirmer, which doesn't play with itself only. So overall, I think that Yubel is... It's not good enough. Like, if you go first and combo, you will probably win. The odds of that happening, however, are not always that high, because you're going to get met with the hand traps, like severely reducing your end board. That cannot go second. It plays some amount of non-engine, but like even if you draw a hand trap plus some amount of starters, this deck struggles with extenders. So I don't think you're breaking any board with this deck, and that is why we put it in the mid category. I think maybe it should be even lower, but like considering like what old decks I put what old decks I put in here, yeah, I think it's better than White Forest though, for sure, as it stands. So that's why. Centurion. I'm sorry, this deck's trash. Better than Chimera, but this deck's garbage. Fuck it, bro. This deck is so bad. This deck is... Wow, this deck is so bad. Like, this deck is so bad. I can't express enough how like mediocre this deck is. It doesn't have high amount of non-engine. Its end board is ass. You usually are not getting to the end board. The amount of extenders is pretty limited. You have to play like not small amount of bricks in this deck. Bestials not being good in all matchups also. Also is not great. I guess we can check some of the deck lists that people are playing. Let's see where. Yeah, here is Centurion. Okay, let's. Why? No way, people are playing Fiendsmith. Okay, this is not. Is this real, chat? Is this real? Are people incorporating Fiendsmith in this? Nah, dude, dismantle immediately. Like, if you have to put Fiendsmith in a deck that primarily synchro summons, you know you're fucked. You know the deck is garbage. This deck's trash. Brick. Atri is a brick on its own. Bestials do close to nothing if you don't have Centurion starter. Also 1, 4, 5, 7, 10, 11 hand traps in 41 cards, not nearly good enough if you don't count bestials here. Yeah, like truly, like this is definition of like a bad deck. Like this is the definition of a bad deck that can still be considered like bottom of the meta. This is a rogue deck, like for sure. So yeah, this is where we are putting Centurion for now. And next deck that we have to talk about is my new personal favorite of the format, Atlantean Mermail. Atlantean Mermail is a very good deck. I do not think it belongs in the best deck category. I'm trying to be as objective as possible, even though I currently love playing Mermail. I love how it feels. But I don't think it's the best deck. I still think it's weaker than Blue Eyes. I also think it doesn't have a very good Blue Eyes matchup if you're going second. So yeah, pretty good deck. Has very strong going first hands. Also hand rips your opponent. Basically FTKs your opponent in its own sense. Because it sets up a few hand rips plus unbeatable end board, for the most decks when they start with 3 cards. Weaknesses that it has, sometimes it can feel bad going second. Sometimes it is very, sometimes the hands are very bad going second. It sometimes can struggle from breaking. Which I personally haven't experienced a lot, but it most certainly happens. It's also very bad into Maxi. Into Mulch armies you can still do stuff, but into Maxi it's very bad. However, if you have auto Maxi, you basically hand looped your opponent for 1 more card, so having an auto Maxi feels even more rewarding than with other decks. I guess we can check Mermails to see how people play them. Let's see. Okay, Rain is alright, I think. So, okay. A few things to note about Mermail. You shouldn't play this. Honestly, Dominus Impulse is also pretty mediocre right now. I'm not currently playing it in my decklist. My decklist is inspired by Udeu and his kitchen. So I'm currently not on Barrier Statue. I'm not on Silicant. I'm not on Impulse. I think all of those cards suck. Silicant is a way you beat Droll usually, even though this deck does struggle quite a bit into Droll. Sometimes it's not the end of the, it's not the end of the earth if you get Drolled. It's all very hand dependent, and it's all very dependent on what you can set up. But yeah, all in all, pretty strong deck, which I think will have its place, and I think that this deck has potential to win it. I think that this deck absolutely has potential to win the entire WCQ. I don't think that people will prepare very much for this deck, in sense of non-engine, because I don't think the representation on this deck will be huge, because it's very expensive deck, and it's a deck that requires you to practice it a lot. It is not Blue Eyes, which is pretty easy on the brain and stuff. So yeah, I guess that's all I had to say about Mermail. Moving on forward, we still have, we're almost an hour in, and we still have some of the. We also have. So are you crafting the deck on your main account? I already did. Now I'm pretty sure that new pack will not have anything impactful. Therefore, I decided to use my gems to build Mermail on main. Okay, next deck that we have to talk about is the Omnipresent deck. Notice how all of these decks in one trick category are omnipresent and have been here for the 10,000 years, and everybody is bored of them. But because Konami refuses to give them final blow, they keep existing, and people keep playing them because Branded, probably better than tier, honestly. In the one trick category, I'm pretty sure that this deck will have at least one player in top 10 of the WCQ. It is it is a deck that most people don't know how to use their disruptions against. When it goes second, it has the ability to break the board. However, it is like okay into maxi. The weakness is that you have to play 60 cards, so sometimes you will not see all the answers you need. The deck can brick still. Ashen Branded Fusion is still pretty strong. Ashen High Spirits is still pretty strong. Um, you know, it is still like it is brand that we all know and hate. Let's see how people are playing. As you can see, like there is still a lot of here he is, the main suspect, Abomod. We're going to jump into his deck list. As you can see, the deck still has like a lot of consistency tools. It has Droplet, which is pretty good currently. It does struggle with non-engine, so against a deck like Mermail, this deck can struggle a lot. Who's we? Stop speaking French. Shut up, Pesho. We're a player. Yeah, player is something else. Player is branded and branded is player, basically. As you can see, it is 60 card deck that this one is 48 though, with what is this? Two hand traps and 6 board breakers. For example, something like this can be very bad into Mermail, depending on the hand, even though this deck does have some effects that trigger when sent to the graveyard by effect, or banished, like Tragedy, like Mercurier, Albion Dragon has effect, Retri has graveyard effect, Sword has graveyard effect, High Spirits can add itself back in the end phase, Saronir has graveyard effect, so I guess that's what maybe makes it kinda manageable. Versus decks like Mermail, but in general, I think that this is. I think that this is pretty pretty solid deck, and this is pretty solid deck list that showcases how Branded should be probably played. Coming into the WCQ. However, I still think that the deck is weaker than all of the above. Then maybe Tempai. Actually, it's maybe better than Tempai. But yeah, in the right hands, in the wrong hands, like basically this deck is unplayable. The only reason you would ever pick up this deck is if you played it for the past 10,000 years, and if you are the same age as Gera. That's basically the only reason you would play this. Okay, next deck that I also think I think the deck is still new to fall into one trick category. But it is a one tricky deck, and I think it's the best out of the bunch. I'm going to put it in one trick category. If it wasn't in one trick category, it would be in very good category, and that is Memento. Memento is a solid tier 2 deck coming short, coming a little bit short to Mermail. I think Mermail is still a deck you would prefer if you wanted to play one of them. Memento, going first deck, plays well into Mulch Army, doesn't play into Maxi whatsoever. Going second can be scuffed. Because of the amount of non-engine you play, you need the right hand to go second with this deck. We'll go ahead and check some of the Memento lists that were posted. Let's see what's up. Yeah, we're going to see some of the Memento deck lists that are posted. They're posted right here. We're going to check the top 8 one from Kaito. As you can see, the deck is on 5 hand traps, but they still play Super Poly and Droplet. This deck is very similar to Branded, I would say, and not so much with the playstyle, but with the deck building ideas. Even though you want to keep this deck at 40, because this deck can brick a lot. Also, you are very dependent on drawing extenders like Bomb Party, like Fusion or a Goblin Biker Grand Entrance, in order to play through a hand trap on one of your monster starters. However, if your opponent has like 2 hand traps, I don't think that like your hand needs to be really good to beat those. Super Poly and Droplet ways this deck tries to build boards alongside talents, which is pretty interesting. I think this deck is pretty good into Blue Eyes, for example, and into like Fiendsmith control decks, basically decks that do not place that much disruption. So I think it has pretty good matchup into this. If like they can deal with Caesar. Caesar is pretty good versus Memento. But yeah. I think it's pretty decent deck overall. And yeah, falling short to Mermel, falling short to all the meta decks here. But yeah, Memento very good, stop the cap. Bro, I did say it was good. Okay? What do you mean Centurion dismantle? Come on, bro, Centurion is garbage. Centurion is miserable. Next deck that we have to talk about is going to be Gimmick Puppets. And Gimmick Puppets is weird. This deck is weird as fuck, dude. This deck is so weird. Bro, I shouldn't be swearing because this is going on YouTube, but whatever. This deck is weird. Because I how do I like this deck? This is Mermail, but shit. Like okay, I'm going to place the deck in not good enough category. It's either not good enough or one trick category. One tricks might do something with the deck, but I think if I had to choose between those two categories, I would put it into not good enough. Being better than Chimera though. Chimera is really bad. And the reason why I'm placing Puppet is yeah. Like, it can fall into either of these categories. Like it can fall into the one trick category, and it can fall into a very good category. The same goes for Memento. Okay, let's actually do this. Let's put it in both categories. Let's put it in the one trick category, and the same I will do for Memento. Just let me find... The same I will do for Memento here. I will put it also in the one trick category here. Probably... sorry, I will put it in the you know, very good category right here, so there is no confusion. Okay. So the thing about Gimmick Puppets is that it's an FTK deck, but it's an FTK deck that can struggle into Droll, that can struggle into Nib, that can struggle into Bestial, that can struggle into Bell, that can struggle into Maxi, that can struggle into Fuvalos, that can struggle to Imperm. But all of those things get kinda nullified if they open a card that is Sengen Summoning for the archetype, and that is Mention, which basically protects all of the Gimmick Puppets from monster effects. We're going to check Gimmick Puppets. We're going to check the list and show you exactly what I mean. Let's see. Okay, I'll have to type it. Gimmick Puppet. People do play it right now. Also, it's a Dominus Impulse deck, if I may add, which is pretty good. Okay, so like the same thing that goes for other decks that cannot run enough non-engine this format. The same goes for Gimmick Puppet. This deck cannot run a lot of non-engine. This list doesn't even run Maxi, which I think is wrong. But it does run Red Reboot, which is pretty good against Dominus cards. Pretty good versus... pretty good into trap matchups, pretty good into stun, pretty good into imperms and stuff, you know. Like basically if you have this and Mention, you are winning the game if Mention doesn't get ashed most of the time. So as you can see, this deck also has pretty strong engine that is also able to push going second. Um, it is pretty like it is just good deck that can FTK you and go second, but we already have those. Like we already have those decks that do not have to run this amount of bricks and that are not that fragile into disruption. Read Mermail, read Memento. Like all of these decks can still go second and still perform pretty well, while also being beasts going first. Mermail can also as well run Dominus Impulse if needed. Um, you know, the deck still can break boards because if you can resolve the condolence puppet and you have a starter already, you can send the terror baby, you can send Beast Doll, and then you're basically immune to everything, and then you can just go for the OTK against any of these other decks, because a lot of like decks, specifically Blue Eyes and stuff like that, they have a lot of effects that target drill beams, searchable veilers, and stuff like that. And like I think Gimme Puppet can push through this, but I simply think that we have decks that can just do better. So the reason you would pick up a Gimmick Puppet here would be exactly if you like only play that deck, or you don't own Mermail but you want something like that. But yeah, that is basically why you would pick up the Gimmick Puppet deck. There is basically no other reason, if you ask me, to play the deck. Okay, now we are gonna talk about elephant in the room, and that is Snake Eyes Fiendsmith deck. Snake Eyes Fiendsmith deck, I think, is right now the best deck because of how meta has shifted from the last pack. I didn't think that Snake Eyes would be the best deck. I think Blue Eyes would still be the best deck, but now Snake Eyes actually has pretty strong pushes, especially into Fiendsmith boards, like into Fiendsmith control boards. It can like set up very strong boards that are very hard to deal with for the most decks. And I think like that's the main advantage with over Blue Eyes, is that the ceiling is stronger. Also, it also has a lot more pushes going second, as I said. It can run decent amount of non-engine, and yeah, 10 more years of Snake Eyes, I guess. We're going to check few decks. Snake Eye Fiendsmith. Do not play Azamina in this, please. We're going to check Fictinium's deck. He won Meta Weekly yesterday, I think. And yeah, as I said, you can run 1, 4, 6, 9, 12, 13, 16 hand traps here in 42 cards for plus Bestials, I guess. Yeah, he is running Bestials, which I think is pretty interesting. And 2 tracts as well, which is also pretty interesting. Okay. No Millennium. Yeah, there is no Millennium for some reason. Which I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about the consistency of this deck. He runs Volo instead of Pilgrim Reaper, which I also think is wild. Okay, okay. Maybe this is the wrong deck list to look. This is not what I wanted to look like. I wanted to look at Millennium, which is why I'm gonna take this one. I wanna take a look at Millennium deck list without these bricks. Because like what Fictinium was doing, was a little bit unconventional, I would say. Not playing Millennium is a choice. I don't think it's necessarily a good choice, but it is a good choice if you are trying to match the amount of hand traps that Blue Eyes can play, for example. If you're trying to have a hand trap pile deck, I think you already have Blue Eyes. I think you want more solid deck. And that's why, like, if you play Snake Eyes, you're looking for a more solid deck than Blue Eyes, which is why you would want to run a Sang engine, because it's more pushes to begin with. This one does play slightly less hand traps. It's 43 cards and it plays 2, 4, 6, 8, 11, 14 hand traps in 43 cards, which I think is good enough. However, I do not agree with Silvera and Chase. Some people played. I think this card was decent in Tempai format during the last two Duelist Cups, but I think right now this card just it's a way that you can play into Mulch Army maybe, but I simply do not think that it's worth running another brick in the deck that already bricks a lot. Instead of this, you could just play 42, or you can run second tract. You can also you also want to run Field Spell instead of Chase, because Field Spell helps you play around Nibiru sometimes. And I think that alone is just a good enough reason to play it. I think one of talents is trolling, but I'm not here to comment on the specific deck list. I'm just here to take a look at to take a look at what people are playing and to explain why the deck is the best deck in the format right now. I don't think it's by far. I think these two are very close. But I think that Snake Eyes just takes off and excels ahead of Blue Eyes because all of the last pack's changes. All the changes that last pack and Lacrima brought into the game. So yeah, Snake Eyes best deck. I definitely recommend it. For the WCQ. I think if you have this deck, you should, and you're trying to do well, you can play it and have any of these other decks in addition. My 3 picks will probably be Snake Eyes, Blue Eyes, and Mermail, that you can see on the screen. But I'm still not sure about the lists and stuff like that. I still have to do some testing. Okay, next deck that we have to talk about is Punk. And Punk is weird. It's weird as hell. So okay. I think Punk goes on top of mid category, guys. I think that Punk goes on top of mid category. It can also be mentioned in the one trick category, but I don't think there are really Punk one tricks. And this is a deck where if I'm wrong about this take, I will accept being wrong. If this deck is better than I think it is. But I just do not see it. I think the deck struggles into Maxi, the deck struggles into Mulch Armies, the deck struggles into Droll sometimes, the deck struggles into Ghost Ogre on Field Spell sometimes. The deck runs 5 hand traps, cannot go second for shit. But I think the deck is still decent because people don't know how to play it. Gem Fever is a crazy card. The new XCs that they got. It can search Ghost Ogre, which is a pretty important hand trap in this meta. As it stands. Okay, let's check the Punk decks to show you what I'm talking about exactly. Okay, Punk is here. Some people are... Okay, wait, this is not the one I want to look at, because this one has Millennium in it. I wanted to take a look at Finsmith version of the deck. This deck does run 2, 4, 7, 8, 11 hand traps in 40 cards. It is 11 hand traps, but the problem with this deck is that engine is... the engine is very weak overall. Show RBT's list. I would have to open the Twitter. I will not. RBT plays a lot less hand traps. He plays more engine, I think. But yeah, this deck does struggle sometimes with extension. It does struggle sometimes with starters. You have Finsmith to facilitate your plays or to turn your punk bodies into something useful and something that can end on Caesar. The deck doesn't play Desiree though, so I guess Caesar or Evils or Larks. Lars. So yeah, it is a cool deck. It is a decent deck, but yeah, I personally don't see this deck performing very well. I think it is okay. Cosmic Strife, thank you for the follow. You can play Desi Agdamde, yeah. You can also play Desi Agdamde, yeah. 2 Rising Scale, yeah. I don't know. Like like I'm not sure. I think that this deck cannot be properly evaluated, at least by me, because I think this deck is new. I've seen the deck do cool stuff. I've seen the deck performing all right. However, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how. Like, I'm not sure. Actually, sure how to evaluate the decks, which is why I'm going to put it in mid. It can be like it can also be not good enough. It can also be very good. I think we still need more exploration for this pack. Okay, so next deck that we have on the menu here is Snake Eyes Fire King. Not pure Fire King, Snake Eyes Fire King. And it hurts my soul. Like this was before Malice got released. This was my favorite deck of all time. It hurts my soul to put this deck into mid category. It hurts my soul. There is absolutely no reason to play this deck over Finsmith Snake Eyes build. This is a deck that like, you know, naturally runs a Zamina, which is already not good. You are playing a lot of bricks that are even worse than Snake Eyes Diabellstar, like OG Garunix. You still have to run Flamberge. You do struggle with extension, you do struggle into Maxi, you have all the same problems that this deck has, except that hand quality of this deck is complete garbage. It is so bad. Like I'm it hurts my soul. I would love to play this deck. Like as I said, this is one of my favorite decks like of all time before Malice got released. I loved how it played, but I just don't think that this deck has what it takes. And I even think that, like, okay, I think putting it in mid is pretty good evaluation of the deck, and I will show you what I'm talking about in a second. Let's see, where is Fire King Snake Eyes? Okay, I will have to type. Oops. Fire King, Snake Eye Fire King with a Zamina. We will check the deck list right here, and as you can see, you still have to run a lot of bricks. For example, Arvata. You have to run OG Garunix. You have to run New Garunix, which is sometimes brick in some hands. You have to run Hollowed, which is also a brick. You usually have to go over 40 cards, otherwise your deck has 2, 4. What is this? 2, 4, 7, 9, 12 hand traps. You can fit 12 hand traps in here, but there is some. Okay, this guy does play 1 deception, so you're like by playing less Zamina Engine, you're killing your consistency. I just do not think that. That the deck is. That the deck is good enough. I also think that you have to play talents in this deck, because you can struggle versus 1 hand trap a lot of times. And I think you want to up the count of this deck, like for it to be you know, a little bit better, because like I think if you put more cards, if you put more deceptions and stuff like that, the hand quality will improve, because you will see you know, this less, you will say see this less, this less in your opening hands. So yeah, like Purifier. Okay, let's stop coping, Tibeto. Come on, please. Purifier King is unplayable right now in Master Duel. Um, and yeah, like I guess that is what I have to say about Snake Eyes Fire King. Second to last deck that we have is Voiceless Voice. This deck not only is boring, not only is boring, not only is bad, but it's this deck is oh my god, this deck is so bad. This deck is so bad, dude. This deck has absolutely no spot in the current meta. I've seen some people playing Finsmith with this. The deck just doesn't set up enough. Decks like Snake Eyes can easily push. Even decks like Fire King, Gimmick Puppet. You know, decks like Brenda, decks like Memento, decks like Mermail, decks like Tempai. Even decks like Blue Eyes can push through the boards that Finsmith can set up. Sorry, that Voiceless Voice can set up. This deck is always and always was carried by its non-engine, read Floodgates, read Maxi. And right now, running Floodgates is not optimal because Tempa is not the best deck. And I basically don't see a reason to play a Voiceless Voice right now over any other deck. We can for sure go and check some deck list to see what am I talking about. Let's see. Voiceless. Okay, I guess we will... okay, I guess I'll check this one. I'm not sure if this is the most optimal way you run Voiceless, but as you can see, this deck also plays a lot of bricks. You know, it's just like when you look at this deck, you look at this deck and you know you're gonna be disappointed if you decide to play this. Like this is, it's very mid. It's very mid. It's not good enough, and it is overall just a pretty bad deck. Just to look at, you know, it just does not have. I don't know why there is. Okay, I'm looking at this deck list and I see Moon, I see Requiem. No wait, I see Moon, but I don't. Aha, okay, so we are actually using Moon for its effect. Interesting. You can still run on engine, but in reality you are running 2, 5, 7, 8, 9 hand traps. And if you run 9 hand traps in your deck, you would rather play anything else than like Voiceless Voice. It is so bad. That's all I have to say. Like, I guess if you like to play this deck, you still will, but I wouldn't recommend playing this deck. I think this deck is even worse than Centurion. Okay, and the last deck that I wanted to talk about, for the tier list and the meta discussion for the WCQ is Lab. And for Lab, I think this deck also belongs in 2 categories here instead of only 1. Sorry. This deck belongs into 2 categories instead of only 1, and those 2 categories are one trick, and I think it beats Gimmick Puppet as a one trick deck. And I also think that Labyrinth is like I think Labyrinth is very good. So some of you might see this as a very controversial take, but I think that during the WCQ, good Labyrinth players good Labyrinth players will do well. I think that this deck is pretty, like, I think it's the best form of, I think this deck is the best form of the stun deck. If you play stun Labyrinth, you can still play a lot of floodgates. If you play Furniture Labyrinth, you can still resolve Equation Cannon, which is pretty strong, still in this format. Like, I just think that cards that that Labyrinth can run are good. I think it is worse than all of these. And I think if I could put it in a tier lower, I would. You know what? Actually, we're just going to leave. We're just going to leave Lab. How do I remove this? We're just going to leave Lab in the 1-3 category. Okay, I can't remove it. Never mind. We're just gonna leave it in the 1-3 category. Because good Labyrinth players will still do well with the deck. And like I can definitely see Labyrinth being in the contention for the best deck. So not for the best deck, sorry, but for the top 10 of WCQ. I can see somebody like Ryan pulling off the Labyrinth. But I don't think you play this deck unless you play on Lab, which is why I'm only going to leave it in the 1-3 category. We can also go ahead and check see what Labyrinth even looks like at this stage. It's still, kind of represented. People are playing something like this. People are playing, stun variants. There is even Finsmith variant, but I guess we're going to check this one. This one seems like the most normal one. With Furniture, Impulse, also like a very good card that they can play. What else do we have here? Yeah, Equation Cannon, Ice Dragon's Prison, very good versus Finsmith decks. I mean, Arias, only 2 Arias. I think you should play 3 Arias, because Arias into Equation Cannon, or like Trap Trick into Daruma, can still like be pretty good. So yeah. Hitori, thank you so much. Mordred better than Ryan in New Zealand. Bro, what do you mean? Okay. Okay. So, that is my take. And, like, that is, I guess, all that we had to talk about for the tier list for the WCQ. This is my take on the things, and I'm pretty sure I can like proudly stand behind this. Maybe I gave some of the biased takes, but I think that this is pretty much it. I think this is pretty much what the meta is going to look like. Also, this is going to be uploaded to YouTube, so if you missed any part of what I talked about, it's going to be on the YouTube tonight, !social chat. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. And yeah.